Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Race with Ryan podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Stevens. We have a lot to talk about here on this week's episode of the show, and we are very, very glad to have you all along for the ride. Let's start off by thanking our great sponsors here at the Race with Ryan podcast, including Paramount Medical Billing, our friends over at Do All Lawn and Tree. We also thank Ken Copley, who is sponsoring the EMOD portion of today's show, and we got a lot to talk about with the EMOD division. And we also thank F&F Racing, who went to Victory Lane this past weekend as well. So thank you to our supporters. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about. You know, I was kind of surprised. I was able to get through last week's show in about an hour, a little under an hour. I'm thinking today's probably going to be around the same lines. So buckle in, put us on your way to and from work or on the way to the racetrack, and we'll get you caught up on anything you might have missed and get you set for this weekend as well. Plus, we'll talk a little bit of NASCAR as they went down to Sin City and had one of the races over at Las Vegas this past Sunday. Wasn't the most exciting one, but there's plenty to talk about. Plus, we'll catch up on the 16, see who's made big moves inside the race to the chase. And we'll take a look at the Racing with Ryan podcast Fantasy League as well. We'll give you some fantasy predictions and all of that great stuff as we move into the second half of the show. I want to start off with some news here real quick, and we'll start with this weekend at the New Smyrna Speedway. The Rattler is happening at South Alabama, so that means the Modifieds are not happening at New Smyrna. It will be Fan Appreciation Night. All the other classes will continue to run as scheduled, including the Ashley Holmes Jacks Pro Trucks, the Super Stocks, Florida Southern Ground Pounders, and the Stephen Smith Inc. Bomber Bees. They will all race on Saturday night. It'll be kind of a condensed program, but I don't think that's a bad thing. You know, we've had a couple of stacked cards to start the season, a nice little breath of fresh air here, then a couple of weeks off until the next race on April the 11th, I believe. And as Family Fun Night for April has been moved to the 11th, they've moved it off of Easter weekend and put it the week after. So we'll just continue the Easter celebrations. And honestly, I kind of wish we had moved this weekend to next weekend when we have an off weekend to avoid the conflict with the Rattler, because I know Gorham won't be there with the truck, so that just takes a couple of competitive trucks out of the field. I'm sure there'll be others that are affected by the move as well. That would have made the most sense to keep the Modifieds on, honestly. Just, fill the off weekend on the 28th. So instead of having two back-to-back off weekends, we could have taken this weekend off. Not that I'm going to the Rattler or anything. I don't want anybody to think that. I just, now that I'm rethinking the schedule here, I just feel like that would have made the most sense. But that's not the way it's going to happen. So we will roll with the punches and have a lot of fun on Saturday. Since Zach Miles has obligations with the IHRA Late Model Tour this weekend, he'll not be with us. He had some family stuff come up last weekend, so he missed out on last weekend too. But Zechariah Cartledge, a rookie driver in the Bomber A division, who has some experience in iRacing and is a big fan of the sport, is going to join me for his first live booth experience. So that'll be the second voice you hear this Saturday. I'm going to do my best to guide him and coach him, make him feel comfortable, and to get ready to have a lot of fun. We're just going to go have fun on Saturday night. It's not going to be a lot of pomp and circumstance. We're just going to get right down to business and go racing. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to working with Zechariah and continue to have some fun. I'll tell you, you start working with somebody good in the booth, you get that second person up there, things start to flow. The program becomes pretty easy to get through. And then when you got to revert back to doing it all by yourself with a lot going on, it'll be nice to have that second person back up there this Saturday night. So some other news items. I did get a call from Rusty on Sunday. That's when he told me about, some of the rescheduling things and some other things that had happened throughout the week. Let's go back to opening night. Nolan Mesa's 28 Pro Truck was disqualified from a second place finish. That has more or less been reversed. I was told to give him his points back, just keep everything as is as far as the finishing order goes. But due to the circumstance of the disqualification, something with the blowers and it not being completely specified in the rules for the Pro Trucks, where it is in some of the other divisions, there's some gray area there. I guess there was like a protest that came from another team, which really I don't feel like getting into all that because I feel like that's a lot of hearsay and It doesn't make a lot of sense. So the long and short of it is Nolan Mesa gets his second place points. Everybody else's points are going to stay the same. We're just giving the 28 truck their points back for the feature event, and that's why that has changed. I saw they put out a little press release on their page, so you can go read what they have to say. I'm in favor of having a review on some things, and kind of looking at it from all sides, and sometimes that's the right thing to do, especially if it's not black and white in the rule book. If it needs to be, then you correct it this time, make it more black and white in the rules, and move on. So I'll tell you, it's tough to come up with a rule book that covers every single little thing. And sometimes there's a gray area, and the drivers are going to find that gray area and try to use it to their advantage. So that situation came down. That happened. We talked about the reschedules. Some of the other things that we'll talk about, or that Rusty and I talked about, we will talk about when we recap the Bomber A section of last week's program. So what do you say we head on over to the new Smyrna Speedway and recap the Catch the Wave 60, that event that went down last Saturday night. We did have 12 Pro Late models on the property. 2 of them did not make the feature. One was JT Chastain, who went for a spin and crash right as I got to the Speedway, so I didn't see it. But when I got to the track and was unloading the car, I was like, man, it sounds kind of quiet. So I figure, okay, we're in between practice sessions. But I remember kind of unloading the car, walking in. I'm like, I kind of said to Tom, I was like, sounds like it's been quiet for a little while, huh? And then we get up to the tower where we could kind of scan through the pits, and then I saw Chastain's car up on the flatbed, and I'm like, well, that's not good. There goes one of the better cars on the day. And then the Arcade Edwards team had another car. The number 10 was there for Carson May, but they did not race that car. I kind of talked to Brad. I'm like, man, any chance we could get somebody in that? And he goes, yeah, last time I put Carson in on a night where the E-Mods were racing, it kind of took away from his pointers and everything with the E-Mod, and he wanted Carson to go concentrate on the E-Mod tonight. So they just made a team decision on that car. Right now, Carson's focus is on the E-Mod, and they're slowly, and I think this is a good thing, slowly working his way up into the late models. He'll be there eventually, so they're just not trying to rush things or kind of get Carson in over his head. There's no need for that. As much as I would have liked to see an 11th car out there, I kind of be like, I was kind of like, man, just put him on the grid, pull off after a lap or two. He's got mechanical problems. Nobody's going to know anything. I would never, even if I knew somebody's up there, like the 73s during the World Series and the Tour Mods, they're starting parks every week or every race, but I'm not going to get up there, the starting park cars. No, they're doing their thing, and cars on the field are cars on the field. So my pep talk did not work, and so we started 10 cars. It was a pretty good race, though, I must say. Let's see, Matt Montanari is on the pole, but it would be Chad Rutherford who would get out to the lead early, and he's trying to get that monkey, that new Smyrna monkey off his back, and things were looking good. Car was pretty darn good at the start of the race. And then we had the first caution, which involved the 16S of Nick Snyder, who got into Dylan Williams. Both those cars running up inside the top 5. They would go for a spin. And then under the caution, Chad Rutherford would pull in the pits with mechanical problems. So he would give up the lead and unfortunately kind of end the competitiveness of his night. He would come back out, run some laps, but still just can't get the curse of New Smyrna off his back as far as the Pro Late goes. When the race went back green, another significant incident happened shortly after. Eugene Tumanello went into turn number 3, and that car just snapped around with him, and he walloped the turn 3 wall really, really hard. I did see him coming up the stairs as I was going down for another victory lane, so I stopped him. I'm like, you all right? And he's like, yeah, my head hurts a little bit, but I'm all right. So obviously, hoping there's no further complications, which I have not heard that there were. So assuming the best for Eugene, and he told me he had a tire go down, which makes sense for the way that car spun. I mean, we've seen people go into the corners and lose it, but when a car snaps like that, and just when the back end of the car is around where the front end should be faster than you can even get the words out of your mouth, there's a problem. Something broke, mechanical. When a driver loses it, they kind of do that hospital wobble first, where they try to save it, the front end takes off, and then the back end swaps around with them. But when the back end pops around faster than you can even fathom, then that's when it's mechanical, or in the case of Eugene this Saturday, a tire going down. So that was tough. But then the race went pretty much green, and Brad May would wrest the lead away from, I believe it was Tim Sozio at the time. And Brad May would hit cruise control, but it was really fun in the last 10 laps or so to watch Matt Montanari in the 9 car. His car really came to him late in the race. It was not too good on the short run, but as the laps winded down, Montanari was closing in on Brad May. And he got there with about 2 to go, car length behind, half car length behind. And on the final lap, Montanari went hard into turn number 3, got to Brad May's bumper and chased him off the 4th corner. Didn't knock him out of the way, didn't try to spin him out. Just, he got there. He let Brad know, hey, my car's, it's coming to me. Like, I really hope we see more of Matthew Montanari out here on the high banks. I think he's got a winning race car there when he gets used to it. And, he's been driving the modifieds for a long time now. So he was kind of getting used to the full fender cars. And, I kind of joked with him in Victory Lane. Is like, hey, good to see you back out here in the late models. And he's like, yeah, we've been having a miserable time with that modified. And I said, hey, all you had to do is put fenders on and look at you. So very good to see him run well. Fun finish there with Brad May, but ultimately it would be Brad May in the 8 car who would get the win. Driving a new number. When we asked the story on that, he is looking to rent. That's one of his old cars, one of his cars that he owns, not one of Bobby Sears' race cars. Those cars are still getting fixed up from the crashes during the World Series. Brad is hoping to rent this car out, but hey, his son is 10, he's 9, so he made this car 8, and we'll probably see the 8 car out later this year with some other people behind the wheel. That should be fun to follow there. But Brad May gets the big win to start off the season in the Hoosier Pro Late Model Challenge Series, winning the Catch the Wave 60. Matt Montanari was second. Tim Sozio settled for third. Palmer Hag had some problems in qualifying. They pulled out of the out of line and started towards the back, but he raced up for fourth, so a good respectable run there for the rookie. Nick Snyder, driving for RCS, was fifth. Dylan Williams, sixth. Seventh for Stephen Redditt. Eighth for Tim Laurent. He had a miserable day, unfortunately. They missed the setup. The driver out of Alabama did not fare well. And then Chad Rutherford, mechanical problems, and Eugene Tumanello out with the flat tire and subsequent crash. On to the Sportsman now. Nifty little field, 10 strong. I was glad to see it double digits. I would like to see us back in the 12 to 15 car range, especially with the up to pay. But, I'm not going to complain about this field. It was pretty competitive. There was, I don't know what's going on with George Alexander. They're still trying to get the bugs worked out on this car, but there really wasn't a bad car in the field, which made for a nice race and a fun, kind of unpredictable night. And it got started in the heat race when Rice Robinson got down on the apron entering turn 3 and spun Matthew Green around. And Matthew did a great job to not put that car, fuel cell deep into the fence. It was looking like that was going to be the case, and maybe the fastest car in the house was going to be taken out in the heats. But Matthew did a great job to get it woed up and finished sixth. Actually missed the invert by 1 spot. So he did have to start in the 6th position in the race, but it would not take him long to get up towards the front. He would take the lead relatively early on in the race and set sail, never look back. This was a pretty clean one. Maybe, what was there, like a spin maybe? I want to say somebody went around off turn 4, brought out a caution. It really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things if my mind is wrong there on that one. But when the dust was settled, a pretty tame Sportsman event, and Matthew Green would pick up the season-opening win for the Sportsman division ahead of Dylan LeBeau. Had a great race. This team struggled during the World Series. They had mechanical problems, and they brought what are they calling this thing now? Oh, hell, I can't remember what they call the car now. But they brought this thing home with a great second-place run. They beat last year's champion. They beat last year's Rookie of the Year. And maybe a driver is going to win Rookie of the Year this year, Chase Simons, who came home in 3rd, Donovan Ponder 4th, Rice Robinson 5th. Andy Nichols was 6th, Rodney Haddock 7th, 8th for Sean Fitzgerald, Richard Fiore Jr. in 9th, and George Alexander. That team elected to start in the rear, and they just did not have what they were looking for on this particular day, so they would finish in the 10th position. So, honestly, more action in the heat race than anything else for the Sportsman. Donovan Ponder did win said heat race, by the way. All right, so scrolling down, and I'm just going down the list here from the New Smyrna website. I just find that to be the easiest way to kind of recap the night and kind of let the memories come back to me. This was an exciting one. This one ended the night. Emods, you guys will be one of the first one of the first races this weekend, or next time you guys race. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I'm trying to find a post here from Max Wheeler's team because I'd like to read it to you. I'm hoping I can find it. I'm not having the luck on finding this Facebook post. Let me check something. I just put Max Wheeler. Let me check something else here. I should have had this pulled up already. This makes for great podcasting, right? Let's see. Wheeler Racing. I will find this. Let's see. Nope, that's not it. Max Wheeler Racing? Hang on. I'm going to find this. Of course, I can never find anything on Facebook when I actually need it, only when I'm aimlessly scrolling. Oh, come on. I cannot seem to find this here. Oh, and I really want to read this to you guys because I feel like they really handled themselves well given the situation. And I can't seem to find this. Why can't I find what I want to find here? Oh, well, I will have to paraphrase it and go off my memory since I can't seem to find Max Wheeler's Facebook post here. Let me try one more thing, and then we'll continue on with it. Come on. This is just silly. Come on. Where is it? Where are these guys? Well, Facebook as... Oh, wait. Wheeler Racing? No, that's like a dirt modified. Well, I can't find what I'm looking for. I remember what I read, though, so we'll just go with that. Anyway, very exciting E-Mod race here to start, or to finish off the night. And, I hear little comments when I walk through the pits. Oh, we're last tonight. Well, somebody has to be. And honestly, there are certain things that I am obligated to do when I write the schedule. Somebody's got the main event, like the late models or whatever, usually going to be first. Trucks are going to be up near the front as a request from their sponsor. Listen, somebody putting up that much money for the trucks, if they ask to be near the front of the field, then they're going to be near the front of the field. That's just the way it works. But I like to rotate. Sometimes the ground pounders are going to be last. Sometimes the sometimes the super stocks are going to be last. Sometimes they'll be up near the front. I try to rotate. Anyways, yeah, I literally cannot find what I'm looking for. I'm just going to get back on track here. The E-Mods would be last this week, and sometimes you save the best for last, and I really like this race. It got off to a rough start. By the way, this E-Mod portion of the program presented by Ken Copley and his great sponsors, Schmidt Construction, Wayne King Racing, and others. Unfortunately for Ken, he would go for a spin on lap 1, get up into the wall, and do some damage to the car. I was shocked he was able to continue, and I appreciate the fact that he was able to continue. I think a lot of teams would have parked it right then and there. He's dragging a bumper bar on the racetrack. A lot of teams would have quit right there. No quitting that team. And that's why we love having them a sponsor on this program, because we don't quit either. But in that dust-up right at the front of the field, there was some other contact when Michael Say got into the back of Carson May and did some significant damage to the left rear of Carson May's car. I mean, significant damage. I remember... excuse me. Carson came around during one of the caution laps, and I was like, whoa. And I saw it in turn 4, and I'm like, the car looks a little funky. And I came around the front straight, and I was like, wow, there's some significant damage to the driver that won the heat race here. That's pretty incredible. What happened there? I'm like, did he spin afterwards and we miss it? Did he, go around under caution, which to me seemed far-fetched? But when I went back and watched the video on Speedway Video, you can see Michael Say get into his left rear, and that ultimately ended up affecting the handling. And you can hear me talking about it during the race. The car was so loose on corner exit, and that is when you need that left rear spoiler to keep the rear of the car, the downforce. And you could just see that car was so free up off the corner with that spoiler way, way down, not up in the air like you'd want it to be to catch the air and keep the back end planted. And that was really the difference for Carson. He had a great car, but Max Wheeler would get the jump on the field, and he'd be leading, and it's like, wow, this could be incredible. And you could tell Carson's car was maybe a little bit quicker, but the handle wasn't there. But there was a restart late after an incident. I think Ken went around again in turn 4, and on one of the restarts, which Max had to survive a lot of them here, Carson May and Max Wheeler were rubbing tires. I thought they were both going to wreck going into turn number 1, and I'm like, oh man, they're gonna throw this all the way here, but they didn't. And Carson May got the lead for a couple laps, but Max was able to settle back in, reel him in, and make the pass and go on to take the checkered flag. And it was a really cool story. Obviously, I know the Wheelers pretty well from quarter midget land, and I've been watching Max race quarter midgets now since 2021 or whatever, whenever I started over there. And, when I first saw Max, and of course I knew, Matt and Dennis Wheeler, they used to race modifieds out here, so I was familiar with them. And I remember watching Max and just thinking, I bet he's going to be pretty good. And he ended up being pretty good over there on the quarter midget track. He really came into his own about a year into my announcing over there, and I watched the end of his quarter midget career, and he became one of the guys to beat, and did just fine in the super stock. Just couldn't find his way to victory lane. Reminds me a lot of Eugene Tuminello. Eugene always ran well the super stock, just could never get it to victory lane, and I just feel like Max is very much the same there. But really cool story. Happy for the family, and then we finished up the show, and I come back in, and when I came to shut down and go home, I learned that Max was disqualified, and I was like, it was deflating air from a balloon, and it just kind of stung because it was such a fun way to end the night, and then it was all for naught. And basically what it was, they had a unlocked rear end on the car, so it was an oversight by the team, and this is what they posted when I saw this. And I wish I could pull it up and read it verbatim, but I'm having trouble finding what I want on Facebook when I need it. They bought this car, and it was a big mod, and they converted it down to an E mod, which is something you can do. You can do the same with a Pro and a super late model. But they overlooked the rear end of the car, and Tech found it and tossed him. So instead of getting on Facebook and saying, oh, the track stole our win, and how could they do this to us? How could they do this to Max? How dare they? They screwed us. No, they got on there and said, hey, this is not the post we want to make. We bought a new to us race car, and, with all the things we were trying to do to get ready to race, we overlooked something, and we'll have to get it fixed and get it right. So instead of blaming everybody else for their oversight, they owned it. And to me, that is a lost art in racing. And I really, the respect, I've already had the utmost respect for them and the family, but just to see that in such a tough time, I mean, how, excuse me, I can only imagine how it would feel seeing your kid get their first win and then having it all go away, but then to own up to it and say, hey, that was our mistake. We overlooked something, and we'll have to get it right. That to me is what you want to see, because there is so much finger pointing. Everything is everybody else's fault. I mean, there's another team in particular where anything that happens, it's everybody else's fault, or how dare they make that call, or how dare they do that to us. And it's like I always say, guys, if you don't want the officials to make a call, then don't put them in a position. Or, if you don't like getting disqualified, don't put the officials in a position to even have to think about doing so. Because sometimes it may be gray, but they might rule against you because in the interest of fairness, we've seen it happen. So definitely a shame that Max got DQ'd, but, I really appreciate the team's ability to own up to it, and they'll continue on. But with that said, Dalton Simons, who was not happy with his second place run, ended up being the winner. So I think he's a little bit more happy now after the fact. Carson May would get second. Dylan Sale, last year's rookie, would be third. Fourth would be Ken Copley. So, Ken, good run for you. Appreciate your support of the show. And like I said, glad you didn't quit either, because fourth ain't looking too bad considering how that car was torn up on lap one. And then Curtis Robinson, who ran over the choose zone a couple times. I chatted with him briefly. Dylan LeBeau invited me over to the pits. We had a beer real quick. After the races were done, I was kind of joking with him as he was walking to get his pay, and So got to see those guys again, which is fun. And Curtis said, man, they got to get rid of this choose zone because he's run over the choose zone a couple of times. And I know it's hard to see, but I'm gonna reiterate: make your choice by the start finish line, and you shouldn't have, you shouldn't have as many problems. I think that that's definitely a helpful visual because everybody can see that start finish line. Jonathan Menninga, rookie driver, was 6th, came from 11th on the grid, so that was good news. Dale Howard 7th. Bruce Packer went for a spin and crash in this one, finished 8th. Michael Say 9th. Bruce Gayton did not start. And then Max Wheeler was DQ'd, as we talked about. Heat race win went to Carson May. And what do we got? We got 2 more races to talk about here. We'll start with the newly branded Mid-Atlantic Marketing 602 Tour Type Modifieds. That is a mouthful, but they've got the sponsor support they've been looking for. I'm happy to see that. Hopefully the class will grow a little bit here this year, as we only had 8 of them on the property. Pretty good race. Hank Baker Jr. made it interesting for a little while. Then he went for a spin, and that kind of set it up to be a battle of father and son, where Christopher Hatton would hold off his father, Chris Hatton Sr., for the victory. And then John Hatton would make it an all-Hatton top 3 to finish in the 3rd spot. Kind of cool to have that all go down. And then Hank Baker Jr. came back for 4th. Carter Blue missed it just a little bit. Was 5th. Jason Hansen 6th. That guy, boy, what an adventure the New York driver had. He was kind of all over the place. And then Greg Newman would be 7th, and Jaron Hatton did not start either the heat or the feature. So not too much, no drama there. Pretty solid race, and like I said, hopefully that class will grow a little bit this year. All right, so let's wrap it up with the Bomber race. Plenty to talk about here. Where to begin? Let's start with heat number 1. No, scratch that. Let's start with heat number 2. Things got a little bit silly in this one. Honestly, my only complaint from Saturday night is the heats took way too long to run. The fact that we had qualifying in 5 heat races and it was 7:30 before we were done with that, I just don't understand it. I think there's a lot that can be chopped out between races to keep these heats. I get it. We need a lap or 2 to get everybody lined up. We need a lap for scoring to reset. We need to make sure the drivers are where they're supposed to be. All of that on all sides can be done a little bit more efficiently, in my view. Unless there's like a red flag or we got somebody upside down or, we got oil all down over the track. There's no reason why we can't have these heats done by 6:45, autograph session for 20 minutes from 7 to 7:20, and then opening ceremonies and we race. There's no reason other than extenuating circumstances that this can't happen. But heat number 2 got kind of silly, and at this point I was like, man, this is some really dumb stuff. Preston Obremski came out in the 1 car, the black one, and he and Dustin Higdon decided to get into it on like lap 2 of the heat race. And I'm not sure if there's bad blood or history there, but everybody talks, everybody chirps, everybody knows what's going on. And apparently this Preston guy, I don't know a thing about him because I don't follow the dirt world. Just honestly, dirt just doesn't do it for me, guys. But he was over here, and he and Dustin got into it, and Rusty had seen enough of their shenanigans and parked them both. And it was just for the heat race. It was like, okay, you guys are going to timeout now. We're parking you. You're starting at the back of the feature. See you later. But Preston decided to get out of his car and walk over to Dustin Higdon. Now, here's the thing. Dustin Higdon was parked in the infield. After, he was parked, he was stopped at the infield waiting for the crossover gate because his pit for the day was up in turns 3 and 4 on the hill. But Preston came over to his car during the race, uninvited, and decided to get animated. And Rusty saw that, and we all saw that, and he was told he was parked now for the rest of the night. And honestly, after the shenanigans with Tony Bromley coming out and intentionally wrecking people, it was just, we nipped that in the bud before it had a chance to become even more of an issue or put somebody in harm's way. And I hate having to park a race car. I hate somebody not being allowed to race, but there are some times where it's just like, come on, man, get control of yourself. It's a heat race, for Christ's sakes. And honestly, I don't know why anybody would think it would be smart to mess with Dustin Higdon, because Dustin Higdon's going to mess right back with you. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying, be careful who you mess with because you might get the horns. And from the conversation I had, to kind of tie this back to the beginning, with the conversation I had with Rusty, he's mentioned, oh, well, I didn't know. The guy in the one car was like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't go to somebody else's pit. It's like, well, you're responsible. Just remember, guys, you are responsible for understanding the general rules and procedures, and it's very clear in there. You will not go to somebody else's pit. And, he's sort of, well, that wasn't their pit. Well, that's where that car was pitted during that race because it was waiting to get back over the hill. That is his space for that race, is where that car parks. It's just like if somebody's parked on pit road trying to get damage repaired and they just stop right there and wait for the race to finish, that becomes their pit. You don't walk to their trailer. You don't walk to where the car is sitting / pitted. You just don't do it. Now, if the driver invites you over and says, hey, we can talk about it, and you guys have a cordial conversation, that's fine. But if you go into somebody else's pit and start throwing hands, or being animated or escalating the situation, it's going to not end well for you. And that's just a big point of emphasis from the track is keeping things civil. You don't have to be friends. You don't have to you can have conversations, but keep it civil. And I appreciate the call that was made. Again, you guys heard, I hated the Tony Bromley stuff from a couple of weeks ago. I hated that he spent the whole race chasing down Larry Masters and went and did pretty much what everybody thought he was going to do. It was premeditated, if you ask me, and I didn't like it. So this one didn't have a chance to get to that point. And you got to know when you come to a new racetrack. If it was my first time going to a new racetrack and I was a competitor, I would make sure I read their rules and procedures so I knew. I'd ask questions on Facebook. I like to know what I'm getting into, so that things like this can't ruin my night. But anyways, the heats were kind of crazy. I think in the first one, Tara Wagenbaugh went for a spin, collected Zechariah Cartledge, who's marked here as a DNS. That isn't correct. We'll have to fix that, make sure Zechariah gets his points. Because he just got collected in the first race crash and didn't complete a lap, but that doesn't mean he did not start. He just finished in 7th spot. Aaron Foy would survive and win heat number 1, and Michael Austin would survive and win heat number 2. Eddie Evans finished 3rd in the second heat on a flat tire, mind you. It was definitely a wild one, wild couple of heat races. You might want to go back and watch those on Speedway Video. Both of them were something. And then there was a feature. And there's more controversy at the end of this one. Breakouts were happening all over the place. Fast cars were coming up to the front, dropping to the back. But it was definitely a race between Aaron Foy, who started back in 6th, and Dustin Igdon, who started back in 8th. They were side by side, racing each other much of the race. Tara Wagenbaugh went for a wild ride in turn 1 and 2, got the wall pretty good. That was the only major incident of the race, and Eddie Evans did not finish as well. Let's just get to the end here. Side-by-side finish between Aaron Foy and Dustin Higdon. Both drivers did not break out, and Aaron Foy would get the victory. It was a really good race between those two, but the thing that a lot of people are still talking about is Eddie Evans Jr. on the final lap would get into Stephen Brown as they were racing for a podium spot. Brown would spin, and Eddie Evans Jr. was scored back in the 9th place. Again, part of the conversation I had with Rusty on Sunday. He explained this, and I agree with him. Because Eddie Sr., I saw him in the bar afterwards, and he watched the video, and Eddie Sr. was ticked off and kind of aggressively showing his displeasure after watching the video. But I think what Eddie was confused about, there was some confusion on whether he was DQ'd. Sometimes words get thrown around, and it's not the true meaning of the word. Sometimes you hear parked or DQ'd. Well, they're two different things. And sometimes, we got DQ'd at the end of the race. No, you just got scored at the back. It's like if you break out on the last lap. You're not DQ'd. You just get scored at the end of the lead lap. So what happened then in this situation is there was a couple of things that happened. So Eddie spins Stephen Brown and is deemed involved in the caution with Stephen Brown. And I believe Steven Davila and Vincent Cortez broke out. So, yes, they broke out with a couple laps to go and did not serve their penalty. So they were also moved down the scoring lineup. So basically, on that last lap, Stephen Brown was scored first of those cars. So he got 6th, and Steven Davila was 7th. Vincent Cortez 8th, and Eddie Evans Jr. 9th because they were penalty cars. So that is how the scoring went. So Eddie was not DQ'd. He was not parked. He was just scored back in the 9th position based on all of that. Now, I guess you could argue, you could argue that he could be 7th or 8th. But I think what happened was to kind of sort all this out is Stephen Davila and Vincent Cortez were under breakout penalty, and Eddie Evans Jr. was ruled for contact. And I think that's why they scored him last. You kind of look at the what rule was more egregious here. And that's what the scorers did. So that's why it is the way it is. And, caused some controversy. And, Eddie is very passionate, Eddie Evans. And he wants his son to go win Rookie of the Year. And I think if Eddie comes to all the races, I feel like it's all going to sort itself out. And Eddie, who looks very competitive and very fast, may even win some races this year. I could see it happening. I think it's all going to sort itself out. Now, the team just needs to not beat themselves or take themselves out of it or get themselves in trouble. It's been a wild start to the Bomber A season. Definitely has been. There's been controversy and rules and this and that. I know for the drivers, it's a lot. I get it. But for the fans and myself up in the booth, it is a ton of fun right now. And the old adage is what's fun for the fans is sometimes not fun for the drivers. So I totally get it. Congratulations to Aaron Foy, F&F Racing, getting the big win. Dustin Higdon 2nd, Michael Austin 3rd. Tyler Vickery in 4th. He just hangs around, man. He's keeping his nose clean, and he is hanging around. And then Zechariah Cartledge, the other rookie, in 5th, and Stephen Brown, Stephen Davila, Vincent Cortez, who is also not happy about the 24-second rule thing at the end. He is having a great year, but the finishes are not falling for him yet. Eddie Evans Jr., 9th, 10th for Tara Wagenbaugh, and Eddie Evans, who had problems early in the race, in 11th, and Preston Obremski and Bennett Wolf did not start. So there you go. What a night. It seemed like it wasn't maybe as wild as I just all described right there, but there you go. I think we covered everything. And like I said, I had about a 40-minute conversation with Rusty after church on Sunday, and filled me in on a lot of stuff, and I appreciate it. And he said, "Yeah, I'll give you some stuff to talk about." And I said, "Yeah, for sure." And I like this because it helps smooth some things out. It leaves a little less for interpretation. You don't have to agree with it, but I think we about covered everything. And it was a really fun night. And we'll do it again this Saturday with Fan Appreciation Night. And, of course, we'll be back next weekend to talk about it. But before we let you guys go, I do want to hop on over to Las Vegas, talk about the NASCAR race. We'll start with Xfinity real quick. Kyle Larson did get the win. I came home Saturday and to unwind. I was worn out and tired. But to unwind, I did stay up about an hour and fast-forwarded through a lot of the race. Watched about the first 20 laps, and then fast-forward, watched the end of the stage. Oh, there was a wreck, saw the replay, fast-forward some more, end of stage 2. Then watched the last 10 laps or so, and, Larson got to the lead and didn't have the best car, but that's what Kyle Larson does. He puts himself in position and is always around, and if that car gets out in front, it's going to be tough to beat. So he did get the win there over Chase Briscoe. And then Sunday's Cup race, got to watch this one with my girlfriend and her sons. They came over late Sunday afternoon, and we got caught up and watched the second half of this one live. We caught up the first couple of stages. Since there wasn't a whole lot of incidents, we were able to catch up rather quickly. This race was definitely could have used another restart or two maybe at the end to spice it up, but this was as pure a NASCAR race as you'll see. The fast cars were all up towards the front. The cream of the crop was up there. And, one of the fastest cars even had a penalty with Denny Hamlin after stage 1 and was able to race his way back up into contention. And when he got back to the lead late, he was untouchable. Car faded a little bit on the long run, but the team did just enough to keep him out in front. And Denny Hamlin ultimately would pick up his first victory of the season over a hard-charging Chase Elliott. Like I said, this was as pure a race can be. And one incident for cause, which happened when Connor Zilic was trying to pit, Ricky Stenhouse was trying to pit, and Connor Zilic kind of ran over the back of him. It was a very minor incident. It's the only time the race was slowed other than the 2 stages. So 3 cautions in total, 2 for the stages, 1 for the incident, and that was it. Really cool moment in stage 2 with some guys going 3 wide for the lead for about 2 or 3 laps. That was fun. There was some good racing. There were some battles. Just, man, these cars can aero block. And it seems like Las Vegas is more prone to it. It seems like Kansas and some of these other tracks, you can run that higher side a little bit better than you can here at Vegas. And I like Las Vegas, but as far as the mile and a half tracks go, it is one of the, especially as this car now continues to age and the engineers continue to work on them, the downforce continues to mount. This one just isn't as good as maybe it used to be, but we've seen some wild stuff here. So just because this race was a little bit of a dud doesn't mean it's always going to be. And like Denny Hamlin said on his podcast, sometimes somebody just hits on it and there's nothing you can do about it. 21 lead changes on the event, so not like it's not like it was uncompetitive or anything. It's just not a lot of cautions, not a lot of restarts, not too much to talk about as far as the race went, but there's still plenty to catch up on, and we'll go over all of it. I'll give you the top 10 here. Hamlin wins it, Chase Elliott second. William Byron with a quiet third-place run, but he did win a stage. Christopher Bell was fourth. Ty Gibbs, another top 5 run for Ty. You're going to hear his name up in the 16 here in a little bit. Chris Buescher was 6th. 7th was Kyle Larson. Did Kyle lead at all? Yeah, he led 62 laps of the race, but faded to 7th. Chase Briscoe recovered from a speeding penalty to finish in the 8th position. Bubba Wallace, another top 10 and 9th. And Brad Keselowski with a solid top 10 run. Some other notables here. Ryan Preece, 11th. Tyler Reddick won the first 3 races of the season, back in 13th with his worst showing of the season. Joey Logano, 15th. Ryan Blaney, 16th. Team Penske not on the ball so much today. Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez. They were Ross was 17th, Suarez was 18th. On the cooldown lap, they bounced off one another and had a heated discussion on pit road. And you have to listen to all the podcasts this week and talking to Matt on the hot mic this week. Just seems like there's some bad blood and animosity. I think Suarez is a little bit ticked off. You saw how hard he raced the Trackhouse cars at the Clash, and I think he's ticked off. I mean, originally when Justin Marks built Trackhouse, they built it around Daniel Suarez, and then Chastain came in when they purchased Ganassi, and Chastain started doing well and kind of was the breadwinner of the team, and then they bring in SVG, so Suarez is kind of getting right. He keeps getting shuffled down the totem pole, and then they bring in Zilich, who's the new, the new superstar, the new the new shiny toy. And Suarez ultimately gets pushed out of his ride. So I feel like, yeah, maybe there is some animosity there. I mean, Suarez didn't light the world on fire, but I just feel like everywhere he's gone, you just wait for him to turn the corner, and then it's almost like halfway through a season, team gives up, or I don't know, maybe it's him, but he is coming out and he's racing these guys with a fire. So I think they were just having a heated conversation. They probably, as Suarez was kind of the lame duck last year, maybe they did probably start giving him the cold shoulder and giving him less stuff in the meetings and giving him less equipment. So I understand where Daniel could feel a little animosity. So he's going to battle tough with his ex-teammates. And, if one of them runs into him after the race, he is probably going to be ticked off. So I just think that's one of those, you just went 400 miles in a hot race car, your old teammate bouncing off of you. Yeah, you're going to go have some words. That's what I think it is. I kind of like the passion and the fire from Daniel Suarez right now. He's not doing that bad. He's right up there, and I think he is going to run relatively the same with the Trackhouse cars. I feel like Trackhouse has faded to a mid-team right now. Inspire, who's kind of arcing up, has caught, maybe even surpassed Trackhouse as far as that tier of a team goes. That's all I got to say on that. Other notables here, Austin Cindric, 19th. That's a driver we're going to be looking at here in the 16 segment coming up here. AJ Allmendinger, 24th. Struggled. Carson Hocevar, 22nd. Kyle Busch, 28th. And I mean, that's a legit 28th place finish on speed. They were terrible. Josh Berry, the winner of this race a year ago, 31st. Connor Zilich, 32nd. I mean, he did get in that wreck, punched a hole in the nose there and was not competitive the rest of the day. But the other surprise from Team Trackhouse, how about Shane Van Gisbergen, dead last, 36th, 5 laps down on speed. And initially I was like, how are they that bad? Well, you got to remember, lap 1, coming off turn number 4, he was dead sideways and actually clipped off of Chase Briscoe's car. And I think they did some damage to the front valence, the splitter area of that car. And it probably threw the whole car out of balance for the rest of the race. I mean, that was a crash that just did not bring out a caution. And we're lucky we didn't wreck 4 or 5 guys and have a huge wreck on lap 1. So I think that's what did Shane in. But with the race not having any attrition and him being wounded for the entirety of the event, he finished dead last. And you'll see, as we'll pivot now to the 16 here in just a moment, you'll see what that's done to him in points. Stage winners on the day, Christopher Bell and William Byron. Denny Hamlin led the most laps and picked up his first win. Now we have 4 different winners on the season after, 5 races? No, is that 3 different? Yes, 3 different winners. 3 for Reddick, 1 for Blaney, and now 1 for Hamlin. So let me pop over to the Cup Series standings. We'll do a rundown of the 16 here, and we'll see who's in the danger zone and all that fun stuff. Tyler Reddick, still your point leader. He is up by 61 points on now Bubba Wallace, who leapfrogs Ryan Blaney for second. Denny Hamlin up 8 spots. I think he's the biggest mover in the 16 this week. He is up 8 spots with the win, as you would expect, especially early in the season. Wins are going to move you up quite a bit if you're not already up there. So Hamlin up to 4th. Chase Elliott down 1 despite finishing second, but that's the bonus points that Hamlin got for the victory there. Those 15 extra points helping a lot. So Elliott down to 5th. Christopher Bell remains in 6th, and he's 91 points out. Kyle Larson up 3 spots. I told you last week, Larson in the top 10. I doubt we see him any further than that for the rest of the year, and he's up 3 this week with another top 10 run. William Byron with a good run, also up 3 spots to 8th. The top 8 right now separated from the leader by 98 points. So Bubba is 61 back, and William Byron's 98 back. So still a big lead for Tyler Reddick. He padded his stats, if you will, winning the first 3 races of the year. In 9th, Christopher Buescher remains in that 9th spot. Ty Gibbs, another big mover, up 5 spots to 10th. He's got 3 top 5s in a row, clicking off the points after the wreck in Atlanta. He's sitting pretty right now. One of the bigger losers this week, Joey Logano, drops 4 spots down to 11. Brad Keselowski with the top 10 run moves up 4 spots to 12th. Ryan Preece finished 11th and jumps up now to the 13th position, up 5. And then some losers here back towards the back half of the 16. These drivers flirting with the bubble now. Flirting with disaster, if you will. Michael McDowell with a subpar run, down 6 spots in 14th. Carson Hocevar down 1 spot to 15th, and the biggest loser inside of the chase right now, Shane Van Gisbergen from 5th in the standings, down 11 to 16th, actually in a 3-way tie with Daniel Suarez and AJ Allmendinger. All those drivers are tied with 117 points. Van Gisbergen gets the tiebreaker based on finishes. So SVG, Daniel Suarez, and AJ Allmendinger, that's Trackhouse, Spire, and Colleague Motorsports tied for the final spot. Allmendinger was down 5, by the way, so a bad day for him, highlighted there. And by the way, those guys are just 1 point behind Carson Hocevar. So the bubble right now heating up. Zane Smith is 9 points behind all of them in 19th, and Ross Chastain up 3 spots back into the top 20. So he's he's on the hot seat a little bit. He's cooling down a little bit. He is, though, let me do some math here, 14. God, he's like 23 points behind those guys all tied for the final spot. So he has some work to do for sure. So the bubble's interesting. You got 3 guys tied for the final spot, and then Ross, like I just said, handful of points out. So let's see who's perhaps on the hot seat now. Kyle Busch down 2 spots this week, 22nd in points. He's got 90 points, so he's 27 out of a top 16 spot right now. Chase Briscoe, nice recovery because the race started in disaster. If he would have, lost laps or whatever, he would have been in big, big trouble. Still in the hot seat, though. He's up 7 spots, 26th in the point standings now with 76 points. So definitely some more work to do for Briscoe, but he's going to Darlington. Won here in the fall last year. Nice chance to rebound. Austin Cindric still struggling. He's 30th in points. Team Penske driver, 30th in the standings. Not good. And also on the hot seat, Josh Berry, 32nd in points. And Connor Zilic. We got to talk about Connor Zilic. He is dead last of the full-time drivers that have run all the races, ahead of Alex Bowman, but we're going to talk Bowman here in a sec. Zilic, down one spot, 35th in the standings. He only has 50 points in 5 races. He is averaging 10 points a race. Boy, oh boy, that means he is, oh my goodness, 67 points out of the top 16 right now, guys. And that is Zilic, who a lot of people had kind of coming in here and perhaps lighting things on fire. Now, he is a rookie, so, he's learning things. But his start is definitely colder than I would imagine. So he is perhaps in the danger zone. 35th in points after 5 races is going to be tough. A couple of road courses, though, coming up could change the season. We'll see how it goes. And then, of course, there's Alex Bowman. We'll talk about him. He is out for the next 3 races, at least, still suffering from vertigo symptoms. So he's out for Darlington, Bristol, and Martinsville. And I would say with those races off the schedule now for him, I would say his championship hopes are done. So that's one driver out of the top 16 for sure. There's no winning you're in, so he can't save his season that way. I just, Bowman was one of those guys when I did my championship preview that I just was not sure about. Can you remember if I put him in or not? I don't think I had him in. So that might be one of the predictions that's looking right. I didn't want it to be this way. I really like Alex Bowman, but man, tough season for the 48 team. They're still eligible, of course, for the Owners' Championship in the playoffs. If Justin Allgaier can fill in for the next few weeks and get that team headed back in the right direction, it could still have some hope there. So still something to work for. And I think, get Alex Bowman healthy at this point and just have him come and focus on getting good runs. Maybe contend for some wins, resurrect his career, reset for next year, and hopefully he's still in the 48. I would hate for his career at Hendrick to end this way. Reminds me a lot of Ricky Craven, to be honest with you. A lot of injuries, a lot of promise, and then a lot of injuries kind of derailing some of that said promise. So there you go. There's a look at the 16. Drivers looking good, drivers not looking good. Now let's head over end off the show here at the Racing with Ryan Podcast Fantasy League. We'll take a look at things. How did Darlington go for our league? Well, it would be 76 Motorsports who would get the win over Zach's Dodge by 10 points. Zach's Dodge was tied with John Gross, 268. So both of them just 10 points back. Cole Trickle Jr., 4th. 5th was Bob's Fords. Staffordshire Motorsports, 6th. 7th for Richie Petty. I was 8th. Man, I thought I had a good Darlington with 249 points, but not quite good enough. 9th in the standings, not what I wanted to see. 8-Ball Racing, 9th. Obbs Truckhouse in 10th. Tyler Vickery, 11th. 12th for Lost Highway. Big Willie and Pit Penguin rounding out the field there. Let's take a look at the overall standings. After Las Vegas, Obbs Truck. Thankfully, the guys that I'm fighting with didn't have a very good day either. Obbs Trackhouse is the current leader in the Racing with Ryan Podcast Fantasy League. By now, just 8 points over Cole Trickle Jr. and just 20 points over yours truly. I am 3rd overall. So, man, if I could have capitalized a little bit more, I'd be back up the standings a little bit. Bob's Fords is 4th, rounding out the top 5 overall, is former champion of the league. Bomber 93, John Grossens. 8-Ball Racing, Richie Petty Jr., Staffordshire Motorsports, 76 Motorsports, and Zach's Dodge are top 10. Pretty competitive league this year. There's a lot of shifting. Names we hear on top one week are struggling the next week. Keep it fun, guys. I appreciate y'all playing so hard. Heading into Darlington. Who do you play at Darlington? Well, I think it's pretty obvious who you got to think about. If you played some of the top guys in Las Vegas, I think you can keep riding the hot hand into Darlington. I would definitely say Denny Hamlin needs to be on your list. I would say Chase Briscoe should probably be on your list. He's won the last 2 Southern 500s, and obviously one of those last year was in the 19 car. So Briscoe's definitely one to think about. And honestly, you could kind of pick any Hendrick, William Byron, your Christopher Bells. Honestly, Hendrick and Gibbs, you feel pretty good about. Maybe a Blaney. Blaney ran well here in the spring last year. Maybe a Bubba Wallace if you need to kind of branch out a little bit. You don't want to use the same people over and over again, right? And then a good wild card for you, I think, would be, a Ross Chastain, maybe even a Daniel Suarez. They're kind of hot right now. Maybe take a little risk with one of those guys and see how it goes for you. Ty Gibbs right now, guys. 3 top 5s in a row. You probably haven't used him much because it's Ty Gibbs. You might want to start thinking about Ty Gibbs. I think he finally wins one this year, guys. I really do. So this might be a good weekend to think about him. And probably Kyle Larson too, if you need another Hendrick guy. So there's some names that you definitely want to think about. Hendrick and Gibbs looking strong. Well, I think that about covers it. A fun weekend of racing on the big track there at New Smyrna. The Las Vegas race wasn't the most exciting, but we head to where are we going? Darlington. I just said that. We're going to Darlington this weekend. Honestly, one of my favorite tracks on the schedule. So unique, so much history and tradition. I remember last year being very hyped going into this race, and I want to pull up the sheet from last year's race, which Darlington. Where's Darlington? There it was. This race at Darlington last year had 8 caution flags and only 4 lead changes. This is one where William Byron led like the first 243 laps, then got passed on the late pit cycle. And let's see, Hamlin led a couple laps, and Tyler Reddick took the lead. Then we had that caution when Larson came back out in the Terry Labonte throwback and set up a late race pit deal, and Hamlin got off the pits first and led the last 6 laps to go to victory. So this race was so like, oh my God, William Byron is stinking up the show. He's going to lead every lap. And then it changed so drastically, and then it was kind of a buzzkill finish when things started to get exciting. So this was a wild one. The race itself, honestly, if you cut the highlight reel together, it's a very exciting race. It's just the highlights were like non-existent, and then they were like boom, 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 race changed on a dime. So even a race that just looked boring really wasn't. So we'll see what happens. Drivers are saying perhaps a lot of fall off could be had this week. A little bit new rules package going into Darlington, which could make it interesting. So we'll see how it all plays out. We'll talk about it all next week. We'll recap Fan Appreciation Night from the New Smyrna Speedway and all the action from Darlington on next week's show. Thank you to our sponsors, Paramount Medical Billing, F&F Racing, Ken Copley, and all of his team sponsors as well. And thanks to Do All Lawn and Tree, all coming on board, sponsoring the show. We appreciate it, you guys. Appreciate y'all listening. If you're headed to the Rattler this week and enjoyed that, we'll see if we can recap that a little bit next week too. Won't be super in-depth, but maybe we'll talk about who won. Armadale's got, what do they call their Destruction Derby type event. They got that going on this week. And then an appreciation at New Smyrna. So get out there, support local short tracks. And we will talk to y'all next week. With that said, take care and vroom vroom on.